Let's talk about the Paulo Costa and Robert Whittaker fight going down at UFC 298. On the one hand, I love this fight, and on the other, I will believe it when I see it, especially given how Paulo Costa's had a lot of issues getting to fights recently. He hasn't fought in a year and a half, and I don't even know if this is going to happen or if there's going to be some sort of a sub at the last minute. But regardless of that, I am going to do my typical analysis, assuming the fight is going to happen, because at the end of the day, I think this is a much more important fight for each of these guys than it might seem on the surface. But before I get into that, I have kept forgetting to mention that in all of my videos, if you look down in the progress bar, they are all timestamped with chapters to make it easy if you need to navigate around. And I would just like to say thanks to everyone who's been supporting the videos and supporting the channel. It really means a lot to me. So with that said, let's get into this matchup. My format for this video is going to be to give you a fight overview, followed by the strengths and weaknesses for each fighter, then their keys to victory, and finally my final thoughts and predictions. So jumping into the fight overview here, one of the more interesting things to look at in this fight is what's at stake for each person. In the case of Robert Whittaker, you have him just coming short on a regular basis of getting back to the title. He works his way all the way back to Izzy, gets there, comes up just a little bit short, falls all the way back down, works his way almost all the way back, and then he falls short to DDP. And at this point, I just find it hard to imagine he's going to be able to do that too many more times. So if he loses to Paulo Costa, his chances of getting back to the title at age 33 are starting to dim a little bit. When I listen to him in interviews, it sounds like he still has the fire and the desire to get back to the title, that his problems are not a shortage of motivation or interest, but he does have a few key weaknesses as a fighter that I will be getting to in a little bit. Now, when it comes to Paulo Costa, there are a lot of things that confuse me about him. I truly sense that he has lost the love of fighting. Don't get me wrong, I think he fully loves the idea of being a celebrity and being a fighter, but I don't think he really enjoys the act of fighting anymore, which I think is very different than the way he looked and the way he acted back when he first came on the scene. If you watch him today, he's almost the reverse of back then, because back then he had virtually no personality, but he had a very intimidating presence and he looked really dominating in the cage. If you fast forward to today, he's got all kinds of personality, yet when it comes to fighting, almost nobody's taking him serious anymore. And quite honestly, I'm not convinced that he's even title hungry at this point. But regardless of outcome, I don't think this fight is as dire for Paulo as it is for Robert. Paulo has the advantage in that he can be a spectacle fighter in the future. And by that, I mean he can be in big fights. He doesn't necessarily have to be going for the title. I just don't see that being the case for Whittaker. And because of that, I think there's much more pressure on him in this fight to win. And regardless of what you might think about Paulo Costa, unless he decides to chug a few bottles of wine the night before, he's not going to be an easy night out for anybody. Now, don't misunderstand. This is an important fight for Paulo as well, because unless he does well against Whittaker and actually looks good in the process, people are going to write him off as any sort of serious contender for the belt in the future. So with that said, let's get into the strengths and weaknesses of each fighter. Starting with Robert Whittaker, he has a tremendous number of strengths. He's fast, he has great movement, his ability to dart in and out with attacks is what he's known for. He's also a very solid grappler with great wrestling, and generally speaking, he's been very consistent. All of these strengths will give him a variety of different ways that he might be able to win this fight. And it will be interesting to see if he decides to keep it a stand-up battle or if he decides to take it to the ground. And I do believe that he's strong enough in either area to actually do that. But as we get to the weaknesses, this is where I think Whittaker might have a problem. I liken him a lot to Cody Garbrandt in that he's a great fighter in so many different areas, but he's not great at taking a shot. I just don't have a high degree of confidence in Robert Whittaker's chin, and I think that's his kryptonite. Even though Paulo Costa hasn't shown a lot of vicious knockout power in his last couple fights, there is no question that the guy hits hard, and Whittaker needs to be very careful not to get clipped, because I'm not at all convinced that his chin would be able to take it. Fortunately for Whittaker, though, he's generally pretty good at not getting hit, and he needs to make sure that that strength is on point for this fight. Moving on now to Paulo Costa's strengths, I think he has some base level strengths and then he has some variable ones, and it all depends on which version of him shows up. Regarding the base level strengths that he has, Paulo Costa is always going to be very strong, and in addition to that, in most cases, he's proven to have a granite chin. In every fight of his except for the Adesanya fight, he's proven to be extremely durable, and he's able to take a ton of punishment without being put away. As for his variable strengths, those really come down to his mindset. Does he want to be there? Is he truly hungry again to go after the title? Is he feeling confident in his skills and ability to win? These are the things that I think more than anything else will be the determinant of whether or not Paulo Costa has success. If he can combine his strength and durability with a hungry mindset and a confidence again like he used to have, Paulo Costa will be very dangerous and right back in the title mix. With that said, over the last couple of years, Paulo has shown us that his biggest weakness is between his ears. As I mentioned, I feel like Paulo Costa has lost the love of fighting and competing, but I think he still has the love for wanting to be a celebrity and a big personality. The problem is that anytime your personality is derived from what you do, in this case being a fighter, you're going to feel a certain pressure to keep that part alive, even when you don't have the fire anymore to do it. And if that's the Paulo Costa that shows up to this fight, I think it's going to be a pretty easy night for Whittaker. So what exactly are the keys to victory in this fight? I actually see this fight very similar to the way that I saw Ian Gary and Jeff Neal, which I did a separate video on. So for Robert Whittaker, I see the keys to victory being doing what he always does when he wins, which is to win on points and aim for a decision. Robert Whittaker has not won a fight by anything other than decision, going all the way back to 2017 when he fought Jacare. Therefore, the idea of Robert Whittaker finishing somebody as tough and durable as Costa is highly unlikely. So if I was running his game plan, the strategy would be to dart in and out as much as possible, gain as many points at distance as we can, and to weaponize our cardio and pace. I think Whittaker needs to keep an eye out for those heavy shots that Costa throws, especially those powerful high kicks. And while Whittaker probably is the better grappler overall, Paulo Costa is very strong, and I don't know if it makes a lot of sense for him to try to go there. Costa did look terrible in the grappling department when he fought Luke Rockhold, but first of all, Luke Rockhold is no slouch on the ground. He's actually very good. And second of all, they were both dealing with elevation and they looked completely gassed. Now, thinking from Paulo Costa's strategy perspective, I think it's actually the exact opposite of what I just said about Whittaker. As opposed to trying to score points from the outside, I think Costa's best chance is to try to get in close and hit Robert Whittaker with hard punches. Even though Costa hasn't shown us one-punch knockout power for quite a while, it doesn't mean it's not in there. And Robert Whittaker, if he catches him, is definitely somebody that Paulo could knock out. So I think that Paulo would do well to watch the fight that Whittaker had with DDP and simply try to replicate that game plan. If he can get Whittaker to back up, where he's able to corner him against the fence, or to simply get inside that lunging style that Whittaker has, Paulo Costa has a great shot of winning this fight by TKO or knockout. However, it's fair to say that Whittaker does have the advantage in cardio, so Paulo should try to deploy his game plan as soon as possible in the first round. Also, Robert Whittaker keeps a low guard, and Paulo Costa has a vicious high kick. If he is able to set Whittaker up for that shot and land it, that would probably be the end for Robert Whittaker. Now I want to move on to my final predictions and thoughts for this fight. It's very difficult to make predictions and feel confident in them when you have somebody who has a lot of unknowns, and that's where I feel like we are with Paulo Costa. We haven't seen him in a year and a half. We don't know what his dedication is. We don't know if his arm is fully healed. We don't know if he's been able to drink enough secret juice. And we don't know if he's back and better than ever. So it's just very difficult to try to give you an accurate prediction with all of those unknowns. However, I do believe that the odds makers have it right in that Robert Whittaker is the favorite. I think he probably understands the situation that he's in, and he has a little bit more of a dire need to win this match. But make no mistake, there is the possibility that we see the best Paulo Costa we've ever seen. And because all of that is unknown, I don't think it's overly smart to throw a lot of money on Whittaker, especially when he's coming in at a 2.5 to 1 favorite. Do I think he's most likely to win? Yes, I do. But do I say that with a 2.5 to 1 confidence level? No, I don't. So what I like better is the idea of looking at the two most likely outcomes for this fight. And like I said, those are Robert Whittaker winning by decision or Paulo Costa winning by a TKO or a knockout. So when the fight gets closer, I'm going to be looking at the odds for both of those scenarios. The chances are high that Whittaker's still going to be too expensive even if I isolate down to a decision win. So what I might consider doing is putting a little bit of money on Paulo Costa for a TKO or a knockout win. Given the fact that he's a 2 to 1 underdog straight up, means that the odds are going to be even better for him for a knockout or a TKO. But no matter what, because of all the uncertainties with this fight, I'm going to keep whatever bets I do place pretty small. So that's going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed it, give it a like. Also, be sure to let me know down below what you think about this fight. Who do you think is going to win? What do you think about Paulo Costa's comeback? Do you think he has a shot? And how do you feel about Robert Whittaker's chin at this point? Finally, I just want to say thank you to everybody for watching my videos and supporting my channel. It's been a really amazing 2 weeks since I've started, and while it definitely takes a lot of work to put these videos together, it's completely worth it when all of you are engaged. So thank you very much for that again, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day.